All right. Welcome. Thank you for your patience here in the house, and those of you online. We've had a few glitches that we're working through. So I think we'll be just fine and we'll accomplish our tasks. So welcome to the sixth in our series of Open the Eyes of Our Hearts on the topic of the death penalty. This event has four parts. We were going to start with Dale Broomfield on the death penalty in general, but he's going to zoom in. So we're going to start with Deacon Gary first. So after we've had those two speakers, we'll allow some time for questions and answers. And then, as we always do with our forums, our job is to educate, but also to provide opportunities for action. So we'll generate some ideas about, now that we know what we know, what might we want to do. So, Father, would you come up and, with a prayer, open the eyes of our hearts for us?
First of all, I would like to thank all of you who have decided to come to take your time for tonight to discuss for this important topic, which always touches our lives, not only to our families, but for the church, for the state, and for the nation, and for the whole world. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Merciful Father, we ask your blessing on all we do to build a culture of life. Hear our prayers for those impacted by the death penalty. We pray for all people that their lives and dignity as children of a loving God may be respected and protected in all stages and circumstances. We pray for victims of violence and their families, that they may experience our love and support and find comfort in your compassion and in the promise of eternal life. We pray for those on death row, that their lives may be spared, that the innocent may be freed, and that the guilty may come to acknowledge their faults and seek reconciliation with you. We pray for the families of those who are facing execution, that they may be comforted by your love and compassion. We pray for civic leaders, that they may commit themselves to respecting every human life and ending the use of the death penalty in our land. Compassionate Father, give us wisdom and hearts filled with your love. Guide us as we work to end the use of the death penalty and to build a society that truly chooses life in all situations. We ask thee through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Father. We have a small crowd out here, but someone suggested I might ask, has anyone ever been to an execution? No, okay. Have you? All right, Father has. Okay, maybe at the end when we have some, that would be great. So I'd like to welcome Deacon Gary to come up, and he'll start us. He is the deacon here. Most of you that are members know him, all of you do, and they hear your wonderful homilies. But he's also at Holy Apostles. He's a retired Navy officer, and he wanted me to tell everyone he has a wonderful wife.
My portion of the topic is the Catholic understanding / teaching on capital punishment. For the definition and Jewish background, capital punishment is the infliction of the death penalty on persons convicted of serious crimes. It has been part of the legal system from antiquity on. It's called for in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, as a punishment for murder, the striking or cursing one's parents, and for kidnapping, which is all listed in Exodus chapter 21, verses 12 to 17. But as well, it's for bestiality, for sorcery, and for sacrificing to alien gods, which is in Exodus chapter 22, verses 18 to 20. Reliance on the death penalty virtually disappeared from the Jewish tradition because of the loss of political autonomy, which means that once other nations occupied Palestine, and therefore the Jews were subject to the occupier's form of justice. And also as a result of heightened procedural barriers in the rabbinic period, meaning how do you kill someone even if it's for a crime committed when there is a commandment stating, thou shalt not kill. The early Christian position was early Christians experienced the death penalty as an element of religious persecution. But over time, and even when Christianity became the dominant religion, theologians like Augustine around the year 400 and Thomas Aquinas in the 13th century did not attack its legitimacy as such. However, by the 18th century, when Europe was entering its Enlightenment age, capital punishment became a target for social critics when philosophical thought that advocated such great ideas as liberty, tolerance, and fraternity, great thinkers of the time saw it incongruent, the idea of taking another person's life as punishment for a crime committed. By 1945, most Western societies had either completely abolished capital punishment or drastically restricted its application. The evolving Christian position today is we most often see capital punishment used as an instrument of coercion in the hands of regimes that violate human rights on a large scale. Some Middle East countries may come to mind. Until recently, Catholic teaching has been reluctant to condemn capital punishment in principle, but most recent popes and bishops have favored abolition and have appealed to governments for clemency in particular cases. Next slide. The major difficulties the Catholic Church has with justifying capital punishment are, first, there are doubts about its necessity or usefulness as a means of preserving public order. After all, the incarceration by itself removes the offender from dealing with the public. Second, the possibility of error in the judicial process. Intentional and hidden biases are always present, as is mistakes in identity. Third, the repellent and inhumane character of the act. The taking of one's life is irreversible, even though other evidence or extenuating circumstances may be discovered later. Fourth, it's incompatible with the teaching of Jesus on forgiveness. Jesus always preached dignity for others and to give another an opportunity to repent for wrongs they have committed. And finally, inconclusive evidence on its effectiveness as a deterrent. A main reason many capital punishment advocates make is that if someone is contemplating a crime that carries the possibility of the death sentence, they will be less likely to commit it. But statistics do not bear this out. For these and similar reasons, capital punishment has been rejected by the U.S. Catholic bishops since 1980, even though there continues to be strong public support for it in some circles and in some states. Next slide, please. In 1983, Cardinal Joseph Bernardin of Chicago set forth a framework drawn from Catholic moral theology that was designed to relate several issues of concern to the Church in a single moral framework, often referred to as a consistent ethic of life. This framework addressed not only capital punishment, but also abortion, modern warfare, euthanasia, and socio-economic injustice, which all pose challenges to protecting human life and promoting human dignity. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, which sums up the beliefs of the Catholic faithful, as recently as the early 1990s, said the state could use capital punishment to protect people from violent crimes, and that the traditional teaching of the Church does not exclude presupposing full ascertainment of the identity and the responsibility of the offender, recourse to the death penalty when this is the only practical way to defend the lives of human beings effectively against the aggressor. However, Pope St. John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI teaching on capital punishment diverts from this official position. In 1995, Pope St. John Paul II encyclical Evangelium Vitae, or in English, the Gospel of Life, he tightened the restrictions for use of capital punishment by saying the times that the state needed to use capital punishment to protect other citizens were very rare, if not practically non-existent. Then in 1999, the Pope called for its abolition. Pope Benedict XVI in 2011 reiterated this stance on abolition of the death penalty by saying, "The door to the death penalty was gradually closing. Today it is shut." In Pope Francis's October 2020 encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, or in English, On Fraternity of Social Friendship, Pope Francis did something that some Catholics believe could not be done. This encyclical ratifies a change in church teaching on the elimination of the death penalty. The groundwork for this change was laid in 2018 when Pope Francis ordered a change in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. At that time, he termed the death penalty as inadmissible. But in issuing his encyclical last October, and the papal encyclical is one of the highest of all documents in terms of authority, removed any lingering doubt about the Church's belief. It said, "Today the Pope placed the full weight of his teaching authority behind the statement, the death penalty is inadmissible and Catholics should work for its abolition." With that release, Pope Francis said, there can be no stepping back from this position of opposition to capital punishment. He went on to say, "Today we state clearly that the death penalty is inadmissible, and the Church is firmly committed to calling for its abolition worldwide." In Fratelli Tutti, the Pope bases his opposition to capital punishment not only in the need for mercy, but also in opposition to revenge. He said, "Fear and resentment can easily lead to viewing punishment in a vindictive and even cruel way, rather than as a part of a process of healing and reintegration into society." Moreover, he bases the teaching in the inviolable dignity of each person, including the person on death row. He says, "Let us keep in mind that not even a murderer loses his personal dignity, and God himself pledges to guarantee this." Here he was quoting Pope St. John II's Gospel of Life encyclical. The firm rejection of the death penalty shows to what extent it is possible to recognize the inalienable dignity of every human being and to accept that he or she has a place in this universe. With Fratelli Tutti, Pope Francis has moved opposition to the death penalty into the forefront of Catholic social teaching, completing the Church's long journey of mercy and reconciliation. Paraphrasing the Pope's words, devotional ascet is not enough, meaning simply praying for the abolition of the death penalty is not enough. The Pope goes on to say, unless we heed this commitment to work for the abolition of the death penalty, these words, however inspiring, will remain just that, words on a page, stillborn, in enunciation, but no incarnation. In us, these words need to live. As Catholics, we are called upon to actively pursue the elimination of the death penalty.
Thank you, Deacon Gary. That was pretty strong words. Thank you for giving us those words. We need a 3-minute break to get our technology going. So if you're online, hang out, don't go anywhere. We're going to get a Zoom call here. And then if you're here, just hang tight till we get that taken care of. So we'll be ready in just a few minutes. I think we're almost there. I'm going to introduce our speaker, Dale Broomfield, who's stuck in Richmond with the legislature, who's working on this issue of the death penalty and abolition. He is the full-time director for Virginians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. He's also a journalist and the author of 11 books, including Virginia State Penitentiary, A Notorious History, and Railroaded, the true stories of the first 100 people executed in Virginia's electric chair. So we are still working on getting the Zoom link projected. And as soon as that happens, we will welcome Dale. I don't know, we can ask Dale, maybe he'll tell us that. Okay. We also have an added benefit. Father Daniel said that he has been to an execution, so we will be asking him to speak about that also. Okay, Dale, can you hear us? Okay, we're working on hearing you. Hold on. Well, we're working on we can see you, and we're working on trying to get the volume up so everyone can hear you. So hang tight a minute. Well, we can hear you, but we only hear you on the laptop. We're trying.
Yes, can you hear me?
Can you speak for us now?
Yes, how about now? Can you hear me now? How do I sound? Testing, testing, testing.
Keep talking.
Testing, testing, testing. I'm talking. I'm looking at I'm looking at all my
Now we got
flying
you.
across my screen. How do I sound?
You sound marvelous.
Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
We good?
All right, welcome, Dale. We'll turn it over to you. I think we're ready.
Can you see me and hear me okay? Great. Tell me when you want me to start.
Go for it.
Okay, great. Thank you all for having me. Thank you for your patience. I had 5 Zoom meetings today. You are my 5th one, and I messed up. I thought this was a Zoom meeting too in all my hustle and bustle. But the reason why I had so many Zoom meetings today is for good news. Okay, and I'm going to share some good news at the General Assembly on death penalty abolition.
Is that better?
Okay, so this week we introduced a Senate a death penalty abolition bill in the Senate. That bill passed the Senate Judiciary Committee on a vote of 10-4, which was better than we thought it would be. Then today, just today, the Finance and Appropriations Committee passed the same abolition bill on a vote of 12-4, which is remarkable. And now, in the Senate, we go to a floor vote. Yeah. So we go to a floor vote in the Senate this Friday. So we're hoping for a floor vote, a positive floor vote. We think we have the votes on the floor for Friday in the Senate. Then on Saturday, an identical abolition bill goes to the House of Delegates. And it will go to full committee. We anticipate getting out of full committee. We think we have the votes. Then next week, the House of Delegates, I think Tuesday or Wednesday, will vote to abolish the death penalty in the House of Delegates. So if the Senate passes it on Friday and the House of Delegates passes it Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, we will have killed the death penalty in Virginia once and for all. And the governor has said he will sign it. So that is very positive. We appreciate your thoughts, prayers, your novenas, anything you can do that you can send up to help this happen. We appreciate it. And contact your legislators. Let your legislators know that you approve and you want Virginia to finally end the death penalty. Did you know that in Virginia, we have been executing people since the year 1608? We executed a man named Captain George Kendall 1 year after the founding of Jamestown. And we, except for one brief period in the 60s, we've never stopped. We've executed 1,390 people in Virginia since 1608. That is more than any other state, including Texas. So we are #1 in executions. It'll be a huge, tangible, and symbolic move for Virginia to be this first southern state to eliminate the death penalty. So it is a gigantic movement that's going on right now. So real quick, why should we abolish it? You just heard really compelling faith reasons why the death penalty should be abolished in Virginia. But I've got some other reasons too. And these are reasons that I do when I go around Virginia talking to groups. First of all, the issue of cost. Did you know that in Virginia, it costs from 4 to 7 times more money to execute someone than it costs to put them in prison for life? 4 to 7 times more. So if you're worried about your taxpayer dollars paying for a killer to be in prison for life, a whole lot more your taxpayer dollars are going to put him to death. A whole lot more. 4 to 7 times more. So a lot of people don't know this. And this doesn't even account the appeals process, which can go on for decades, which just add layers and layers of cost onto killing someone. Think about the other uses we could do with that money besides killing one person. Think about victim restitution. Think about paying for funeral costs for victim family members. Think of all these things we could do with this money. Substance abuse programs, domestic abuse programs, things that we know work that help stop violent crime before it happens. We could be applying this money toward that. We're estimating we can save $4 to $5 million a year for Virginia taxpayers by abolishing the death penalty for these reasons. Second of all, the question comes up often, is the death penalty a deterrent to violent crime? The answer is, it is not. No study anywhere shows that the death penalty is a deterrent to crime. In fact, states who have the death penalty have higher murder rates than states who don't have the death penalty. They attribute that to an inbreeding effect. That if the state is showing that it's okay to kill, then it's okay for anyone else to kill on a subliminal level. So it's not a deterrent. The National Safety Council rates it last in deterrence for violent crime. Thirdly, is it racially biased? That's an easy one. Of course it's racially biased. In Virginia, we have 19% of our population is minority. 46% of all of the executions have been with minorities. That is a very lopsided. It's about a 7-to-1 ratio when you factor in all the other details. The 2 men remaining on death row in Virginia are both black men. They've been on death row 13 years and 15 years. And their cases are tied up in the appeals courts because of problems at the trial stage. The fourth thing is, so we know it's racially biased. I mean, throughout time, we have shown of the 100 executions that I wrote about in my book, Railroaded, 87 were black. 87 of 100 were black. So it is horrifically lopsided racially. Now, the last question I want to ask you is, do innocent people ever get caught up in the death penalty? People say with this era of DNA and advanced law enforcement techniques, no, that's not possible. It's absolutely possible. In fact, since 1973, the Innocence Project has released 174 people off of death rows across America who were proven to be absolutely innocent of the crimes in which they were sentenced to death. That's 1 out of every 9. And those are the ones we caught. How many did we miss? Okay, we'll never know. Virginia has set it up so we can never find out if we've executed an innocent person because we incinerate all the evidence in the case after an execution. So we can never know. So with the excessive cost, with the racial disparities, the lack of deterrence, and the possibility of an innocent person being caught up in execution, the death penalty is a failed government program that has no place in the 21st century. It is a ragged, racist remnant of Jim Crow, and it needs to go away. So in Virginia, we are hoping that by ending the death penalty in Virginia in 2021, it'll have a ripple effect across the Deep South. And that other southern states looking to Virginia for guidance will say, maybe we don't need the death penalty either. Now, the alternative to the death penalty is life without the possibility of parole. I'm not a huge fan of that either, okay? But this is a black and white issue to many legislators, and we have to thread a needle very carefully. So we just want to take the death penalty off the table. If someone is found to be innocent down the road, we can always let them out of prison, but we can't let them out of the ground if we've killed them. So there's no room for the death penalty in Virginia anymore, and so it's time for it to go. And it looks like, fingers crossed and prayers up, it looks like it's going to happen in 2021. We think we've got the floor votes in the Senate and the House to eliminate the death penalty, and the governor has promised he'll sign it. So contact your legislators, let them know. I am in favor of ending the death penalty in Virginia. You don't need the bill number. They know, believe me, they know what it is. We've been hammering them for weeks now. You want to abolish the death penalty in Virginia, there's no room for it. Whether you're against it because of the secular reasons that I just laid out, or whether you're against it for the moral and ethical reasons that were laid out before, it doesn't matter. It just needs to go away. It needs to end. So I thank you for having me. Thank you, Diane and Christine, for setting this up at the last second the way you did. And I'll be happy to hang around and answer questions or do whatever needs to be done afterward. So thank you very much for being here.
For staying on. Father, would you be willing to come up and share your story? This is the last minute. He was not prepared to do this, so is that all right? And then we'll open up for comments and questions.
Thank you, Diane. It was in 1990 when I was in a parish, and I had the phone called from the prison officer. He said, "Are you Father Daniel?" Because I was in the parish where the prison is located there. So I said, "Yes." And he said, "We are calling you. We want you tomorrow early in the morning to come to the prison office." I said, "What am I supposed to come with?" He said, "You have to come with each and everything which you are using as a priest." I said, "Okay." So I went, it was early in the morning, and I met one of the Muslim leader and also one of the pastor there. And they said, "We have a special mission here today at 7:30 a.m. And they said, someone will come to tell you what to do. And then we wait, and then someone came and said, would like to take you to go and meet with your members from your congregation. And for me, I had 3 of them, and the Muslim, there were 2 and 1 from the pastor. And then when we went there, they said, please talk with these people because at 7:30 a.m. they will be executed. And they said, you have to talk with them, and wherever you know what to do, prepare them. And it was a shock for all of us because they didn't prepare us. And we didn't know even what to do. But thank God, what I did, I took the anointing of the sick and the Holy Communion. Those are the things I was supposed to take in the Bible. So I started talking with them. Those people, they were polite, waiting to hear what Father is going to tell them. I said, dear friends, God loves you. And I know that at 7:30 a.m., you are going to be executed. But what you are supposed now is to prepare yourselves, to invite the Holy Spirit to guide you for your decision now and to be in the hands of God. And all of them, they were ready to prepare themselves. And they even shared the way they were felt during that situation. They said, we know that we did something wrong. We know that we were terrible, but we accept what it has happened. But we are praying that God may receive us for eternal rest. Something which it was so powerful to all of us, we started asking ourselves, it's not an easy thing to let someone taking his own life. And to see exactly what time. And because the execution was not like the way you see here, it was that hanging with using the rope. And that rope is connected with electricity. And then there is something that is opened up, and then they are just hanging for 45 minutes to make sure that they are completely died. That was a very bad thing. And every time when I hear execution, it clicked me back onto my memories. Because it's something that it has touched my life. But all in all, as we have heard, that it's better to continue to say no. God only has the power to take someone's life. Let us continue to fight for justice and to fight to help that each individual has to see that life is precious. And we have to continue to pray to make sure that all these things have come to the way and leave each and everything in the hands of God. We know that it has been affected. Those people have lost their dear ones. But no matter what, St. Paul reminds us, we cannot combat evil by doing evil, but we can combat evil by doing good. And that's what we are trying to make it. That's what I can share for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. That was very powerful. The personal story brings it all home. So what we have now, we do have a mic set up here, and people at home, if they have questions, we can ferry them up here for either Father, if you're willing to take, or for Deacon Gary, or for Dale, if people have questions, or any just comments. Come on up to the mic and we'll go from there.
I'd like to address you, Dale, and just ask why this is the moment that things are falling in place and that Virginia can finally abolish the death penalty? Are there certain events or certain things that have happened? What do you attribute that to?
That's a great question, whether certain things have happened that are precipitating the movement. I'm sorry, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, there's an echo. Okay, I think one thing that has opened eyes more than anything, the Black Lives Matter movement of this past summer, the George Floyd killing, the Breonna Taylor killing, those have opened people's eyes to racial disparities in criminal justice. And another thing that has done it is the killing spree that the previous administration has done on a federal level. We saw 13 executions of federal prisoners over the last several weeks, and most people are horrified by that. And many of these prisoners who were executed hadn't even used up their appeals process yet. So they were technically illegal executions, but that didn't seem to matter. So that's opened a lot of eyes, and that's why on a federal level, President Biden is looking at possibly ending the death penalty on a federal level. But that, coupled with the racial disparities of the summer, have shown people that we got big problems in criminal justice. And all these things kind of came together, and that's what we're hearing. We're hearing the racial disparities and the federal killing spree are changing minds and showing us that this is just not a salient way to administer justice anymore.
Good evening. So I understand that you are Virginians against the death penalty, but do you have any sort of statistics about the United States in reference to other countries and the death penalty?
We know that the United States is alone with countries like North Korea, China, Pakistan, Egypt, Libya, Uganda, many third world nations in administering the death penalty. No Western nation has a death penalty anymore. In fact, you cannot belong to the European Union if you have a death penalty. So no European nations have it. Not even Russia has a death penalty. Not even South Africa or Israel. No developed nations around the world have a death penalty. We are alone in killing our own citizens in Western civilized nations. So we're an outlier that way. I can't give you individual statistics on countries, but it is a sorry state when a country like the United States, who holds itself up as a beacon of enlightenment and compassion, still has a death penalty. And we're the only one who does of these third world nations. So it's a very sad commentary on us. So it's something we need to seriously look at for that reason.
Okay, question from online. What would be an appropriate punishment for a confessed serial killer? This person is against the death penalty, but doesn't know how to answer that question.
Virginia has always had life without the possibility of parole for capital crimes. It's always been there. There were two options for juries: life without parole or the death penalty. Our alternative is life without the possibility of parole. A big problem is handing government, a government that is very fallible, very prone to mistakes. If we have a government that can't administer health care, that can't deliver the mail, that can't get COVID shots out, why are we trusting them with the power of life and death? That's too much power for a government. Gerald Ford, when he was president, said, and I don't think this was his original saying, but he did say it, that the government is big enough to give you anything you want, is also big enough to take away everything you have. And nowhere is that more true than with the death penalty, because it's taking away your life is taking away literally everything. We are looking at life without the possibility of parole because that is different than just a life sentence. And if you think life without parole is being soft on crime, I would advise anyone to try it because it is horrible. You're in a maximum security facility for the rest of your life with nothing to look forward to but dying. It becomes a decades-long lethal injection of loneliness and 24-hour armed surveillance. It is not a pretty punishment. Yes, serial killers, there are many people who deserve. People say, well, they deserve to die. Well, maybe they do deserve to die. We just should not have the power to kill them, to take their lives. If they die behind the walls of a maximum security prison over decades of imprisonment, that's a terrible way to go. There's nothing to look forward to but death. But bear in mind, too, most death row prisoners are not like that. The vast majority of death row prisoners are mentally incapacitated, substance abusers who had horrific childhoods, who made ghastly mistakes. If you see the movie Just Mercy, that's the most realistic portrayal of a death row I've ever seen in that movie. They are broken men in there. And to just put them to death, there comes a point when I get back to the emotional side of it, are they redeemable? I've known some former death row prisoners who are redeemable. One lives in Charlottesville now. His sentence was commuted to 38 years in prison, which he served, and now he's working in a law office. He made himself a lawyer while he was in prison. He got a second chance, and he made the most of it, and he's a great guy. So there are people who can do that. There are second chances available. For those who don't have second chances, who don't deserve second chances, then they're just going to die alone in prison. And that's a sad way to go, but that's the alternative, I'm afraid.
Hello, Dale. My question is more about what happens next
Yes.
week. Once the governor signs this document, is that a law? Is that a statute? Does that prevent judges from imposing the sentences? What's the actual process that takes place after that document's signed? Thank you.
After that document is signed, thank you for the question. Once the document is signed, the death penalty will be taken off the books. It will not apply to any crime in Virginia. It will automatically, capital crimes will automatically default to life without the possibility of parole. Now, you have heard that the General Assembly is putting in mandatory minimums. They're trying to pass a bill regarding mandatory minimums. This does not apply to capital crimes, okay? The mandatory minimum for a capital crime, it will still be life without parole. It just takes death off the table. No judge, no jury can assign death for any crime from here on out. If it's deemed to be a capital crime, then it will be life without the possibility of parole. And that means no reason, there's no reason they can get out. None. Zero.
Good evening, Dale. Thank you for informing us, as well as Deacon Gary. We're passing this law in Virginia. What other religious traditions would not be able to back this law? The general populace, our fellow citizens. What are the greatest problems that will happen even given this law? Because I would take it the reason we're here tonight is that not everyone agrees in abolition of capital punishment. So help us understand more.
Great question. Great question. I can't speak for all faiths. I know that the Virginia Interfaith Center has done a great job of mobilizing many Baptists, Catholics, Episcopalians, Jews to be in favor of abolishing the death penalty. I realize there are many evangelical groups, some Pentecostal groups, some Southern Baptists who still believe in the Old Testament dictums of an eye for an eye. I cannot, I don't know what to say, how to answer to them, other than we simply cannot build a 21st century criminal justice system around over a single Old Testament dictum. It becomes problematic and it becomes arbitrary. You know, colonial America, colonial Virginia in particular, built its early laws around the Old Testament. And if you do any research into it, you see they were horrible because they were applied so arbitrarily. We can't have a criminal justice system that's applied arbitrarily. To other faiths, I just tell them, I realize you don't agree. I'm trying to start a conversation with you about why this is a problem. And it goes beyond religion. It goes into cost. It goes beyond the possibility of innocence. It's a pro-life issue with many faiths. And so I just try to start a conversation, and it's a slow education process is what it boils down to. And for the last 4 years in Virginia, I have been traveling the state doing these education sessions. And I'm finding that once they hear those reasons outside of the moral and ethical issues, they start seeing, yeah, you know what? Maybe it is a problem. Maybe it is something we need to start thinking about. So all we can do is be patient and start a conversation and just try to educate on why this is a problem and why we can't do it in the 21st century. I hope that answers your question. It's a tough one. So.
Thank you, Dale. Unless anybody has, I'm going to go up here.
So Dale, you can see
Now I can see you.
you can see all the folks here?
I can. Thank you all for being here.
Now that we know this, what do we want to do? We've done that at our other forums, and we have a chart here, and we can collect those ideas. Susan said she'd help chart some of our ideas so that we can share them, and I think they'll probably get posted then on the website or along with this video when it gets posted. So one of the things I think that we've heard from Dale is we can contact our legislators, and the time is of essence, correct, Dale? Now's the time to be able to do that. So that's one thing maybe we could put on there, and it's of immediacy. Contact our state legislators. This week, yeah, because they're working this weekend to move it forward, right? So if you can go on the Virginia Gov website and put where your address is, and it'll link you right to your delegate and your senator. So that would be one step if you haven't already done that. Some of us probably already have. Other thoughts or ideas? Come on up and share them. Tom. Okay, so Joe?
Dale, I wonder if you could also answer a question which might be a powerful impact. We talked about our relationship to other countries. How many other states in the Union still have a death penalty besides the state of Virginia? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, great question. 28 states either have laws in place to eliminate the death penalty or have moratoriums in place. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
So 28 have done something about it?
Okay.
Is that what you said, 28? No,
28 states have already either eliminated it or have moratoriums in place.
Okay,
So that leaves, what, 22 states who still
22.
have active death penalties in place.
so that's a piece of
Right.
that's a piece of
many of
information
the-
that would be helpful to us, yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And know too that most of those states are southern states. So we're hoping to have a trickle down effect across the Deep South, that they'll others start doing away with it as well.
So we also, if the opportunity arose, could advocate nationally too. I mean, the immediacy is right now here in Virginia, but ultimately, any national influence we have. Or I would assume, and Dale, maybe you know this, if the new president is asking to abolish the death penalty, will that take legislative action on the Congress, or is that an executive order?
No, it could make it an executive order, but I expect him to do it through Congress because it would be better chance of being permanent. Executive orders can always be overturned by the next administration. It is for that very same reason that we are trying to make death penalty abolition a bipartisan law this year. And we have in the Senate both a Democrat and a Republican co-patron. By making it bipartisan, there's less chance that the other party will come along the next time they're in power and try to repeal it. So I fully expect President Biden to let Congress act on abolishing the federal death penalty rather than through executive order.
So again, with that, how that happens. It's not, I don't think, highest on the legislative docket at the moment, but that will be coming, and so we can contact our national legislators then when that happens. I think in the back we
Especially, and Tim Kaine is a co-sponsor of it.
So Tim Kaine is a co-sponsor, so that's good. In the
That's
back.
correct. Yeah, it's great.
In the back we have it's on colored paper, we have a pledge that you might want to take. As a Catholic, I am against the death penalty, so they're left in the back. If you're interested, you can pick one up. We had provided those.
I also have an online comment.
Go ahead.
Please tell us what other countries are doing in regard to the death penalty.
Well, the other countries who have it, the few that are remaining, are not doing anything. There is active work in Uganda to do away with the death penalty there. And in fact, they may have done away with it by now. There's people there, I have friends there who are actively working to make sure the death penalty stays away. I believe they've done away with it, but there's a strong chance it can come back. So they're working to keep it away. Most countries, of the 190 countries in the world, 170 of them have no death penalty. They've already done away with it. So the 20 countries that are left are the countries that I mentioned, like the United States with North Korea and China and Pakistan and Libya, Saudi Arabia. Right now, there's no activity really in any of these countries to do away with their death penalties. Only the United States is taking a hard look at it because other Western countries are looking at us saying, why do you still do this? Why do we want to keep doing business with a country who still has a death penalty? So there's an economic reason that the United States has to do away with it for international trade.
Dale, what is the House bill number? Now we can put that on our sheet that people should be, what is it?
Oh, it's 2235, I think.
Okay. I'm sure.
And the Senate bill is 1163.
Okay, Senate 1163, okay. Any other ideas? Mary?
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Dale and Gary, the 22 remaining states, do we have an obligation to try to influence them? If we've made this progress in Virginia, what will you be doing next, Dale, to try to work with people that
Yeah, I'm working
don't-
myself right out of a job, aren't I?
Yeah, will you have a job?
Well, no, there are 22 other states. There's lots of work to do.
There's a long way to go. Boy, I tell you, if Virginia drops I really look for the other southern states to follow suit within a decade. It's not going to happen overnight. And the good news is that even if I work myself out of a job, I'm still going to stick around in Virginia for about a year, because there's the first year is the most critical. With legislation that's this huge, we've been killing people for 413 years. And to suddenly stop doing it, the first year is going to be crucial to whether we keep it abolished. So I'm going to stick around in Virginia for another year. If after a year we still have no death penalty in Virginia, I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. But we're hoping we'll have a trickle down, a domino effect throughout the rest of the South, especially the South, because the entire South still has a death penalty. So that's where we're going to start.
All right. Tom?
Hi, Dale. I'm Tom Steffens. First, let me thank you for the
Hi, Todd.
marvelous presentation. Congratulations on what is obviously a success. I've never been to a meeting that was concerned about an issue where the trump card was already played, so terrific. You laid out the 4 big items here about reasons for not killing: moral, ethical, racial, and economic. And in our whole Respect Life effort, things like assisted suicide, euthanasia, abortion, I mean, those principles, those considerations that you had seem to apply to those as well. The moral reasons, the religious reasons, certainly racial reasons, and the racial numbers that take place in abortions, and the economics of it is horrific, considering all the money that we pour into those. When you talk to these so there's a question here now. When you talk to these legislators, what's the principal persuasive fact that they see?
Great question. I don't specifically speak to legislators myself. I speak to their constituents, okay? When I speak to their constituents, my argument changes depending on their, whichever they're Republican, Democrat, or Libertarian, really. If I'm speaking to a group of Republicans and I'm trying to sway them that the death penalty needs to be abolished, I might lead off with the economic reason. I rarely talk about moral or ethical reasons with anyone, because those tend to be very fluid definitions for many groups, even Catholics. One of the most challenging talks I ever gave on the death penalty was a group of Knights of Columbus in Western Richmond. They weren't buying it. Even they considered themselves pro-life, but they weren't buying ending the death penalty. I found out very quickly, maybe this is an argument I shouldn't be making in public, so I stick to the facts and the process of the death penalty. People believe in the death penalty in theory. They think it works in theory, but they don't know the process. Once they become aware of how screwed up and bloated, corrupt, racially biased, and mistaken the process is, that's when their eyes are opened. If I'm talking to a group of Democrats, I might lead off with the innocence, the possibility of innocence argument. Or if I'm talking to a group of libertarians, I might lead off with the big government argument. So it kind of depends on who I'm talking to. Our lobbyists talk to the legislators, okay? I don't talk to them at all. I just talk to the constituents. Then once I lay out the facts to the constituents, then I encourage them to contact their legislators and lay out these facts to them. So that's kind of my MO.
Got it. Thanks, Dale. Thanks.
Any other final thoughts? Well, I want to thank Deacon Gary, Father Daniel, and Dale for enlightening us and giving us all sorts of things to think about. And we are leaving with some action items. And thank you for coming to online and in person. And Father, could you close us with a prayer?
First of all, I would like to thank Deacon Gary and Daryl for their inputs and for the technical issues to share with. But also I'd like to thank all of you who have come to participate here and to join for this discussion. But I would like to invite you to continue to make this discussion alive, not only for yourselves, but with the big family, the Church of Ascension. Now you go as a messenger of this message which you have. Please share with the people who can be ready to understand what does it mean, what we are discussing. It's very important to let people know and to get their understanding and to go through for what we have been discussing. And I would like to thank Diane for organizing this with your team to make sure that everything goes smoothly as you have planned. Thank you so much. Let us pray. Loving God, open the eyes of our hearts as we go forward. To continue our work for life, we ask to be filled with your mercy and grace. Help us not grow weary of this task to end the death penalty, but to remain steadfast in our mission to spread reconciliation and compassion. Teach us the ways of your grace as we lift up the dignity of human life and break down the walls of hatred and violence. We ask thee through Christ our Lord. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Go in the peace of Christ. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.